Um, let's get started. Today I'm going to do a talk. So it so happened that somebody asked me, can we listen to your thesis, your talk? What do you do? And I said, yeah, you can find it on the web. And I realized that I didn't have any videos up there. So today we're going to record this talk. This is part of a talk that I gave at Google, during one of their lunchtime talks that they invite people to talk about various subjects. I am a physician, emergency medicine, researcher also at Kaiser. So I do half and half. Emergency medicine I practice in South San Francisco, right here. And the research I do is in the division of research, which is in Oakland. I have a group of about 13 physician scientists. The CREST network is the group that I co-founded with a couple of other guys. All emergency physicians, all interested in research. The idea was, this was about 9-10 years ago. The idea was that Kaiser has become paperless, and we have so much data coming in through the electronic health record. So we thought, yeah, it'll be nice to look at the data and do some research. And that's how we started. And Joe here was my mentor at Kaiser, right there. He retired from Kaiser, but he was one of the guys who helped me figure things out on how to get data from the EHRs. I also teach medical students and residents from UCSF, and I run this group, Society of Physician Entrepreneurs in San Francisco chapter. The disclosure, I don't have anything to disclose, so whatever I'm speaking from my own mind, and I don't represent any organization when I do this talk. So, after practicing for more than 25 years of emergency medicine in the United States, I came to a conclusion that 50% of what we do in a typical clinical practice is totally useless, sometimes dangerous. You must be thinking, looking at that number and shaking your head. No, that's not possible. That's not possible. Are you telling me that you already have 25 years of experience? You may not believe it, but I do. I look a little younger than what I am. But that's my conclusion, and I don't have any data to show you, but that's my gestalt. The cost of healthcare is going up. The population is getting older. As a person gets older, the cost of care goes up, right? If you're a 30-year-old, it costs about $5,000 to take care of you for a year. But if you're 60, it's going to cost you $20,000. And if you look at the total cost of healthcare compared to our GDP, it's pretty high. If you line up all the countries, USA, China, Japan, Germany is yellow, and this is US healthcare cost. It's almost as big as the whole GDP of Germany, which is the 4th largest country in the world. And so that's how much money we are spending on healthcare. And the price, if you look at the consumer price index, it has been going up. Obviously, the purple one is healthcare, and you have housing, food, transportation, clothing. Clothing is actually going down. It's becoming cheaper to buy clothes, but healthcare does not go down. It always goes up. Then you might think, well, if we are spending so much money, how is the quality of healthcare? How efficient are we? How is the performance? Well, not that great. We are spending way too much, but our performance compared to all the other industrialized countries is way down here. And so we are spending more, and the quality of the performance is less. But we have a lot of knowledge. There's a lot of science There's a lot of research going on. The number of studies, it keeps going up. And by the way, this is only until half of 2017. So right now it must be off the charts, the number of clinical studies that happen. So let's look at physicians. What is happening with the physicians? The physicians are under a lot of stress. The big ones are, the reimbursement structure, where you feel that, they have to work harder and harder to make the same amount of money. The regulations, there's a lot of reporting that has to happen, and so they have to check a lot of boxes. And the medical legal risk is also pretty high, so they have to do extra things to protect themselves from that risk. And so what does it do? It increases burnout in physicians. 51% in one survey reported that they have symptoms of burnout, 51% of the physicians. That's definitely not good for the healthcare system nor the patients, right? If your doctor is not feeling good about practicing medicine, then it's a bad thing. Technology has been growing. The technology, the amount of data that is available, that has grown 1,000-fold or even more. Hardware speeds are getting better, key algorithms are getting better. So what does that mean for us? If you look at the current healthcare system, it's very complex. If you think about the minimum number of players, it is the physicians and the patients, right? So you have physicians on one side and the patients on this side. So these people are the providers, and these people are the consumers of healthcare. And so they have to provide that healthcare. But you have so many other things in the middle. They have to go through all these other entities that have not necessarily the same goals as the physician, but they have their own goals. For example, pharma, device, they have to make sure that they have a device that is approved and that they have a device or drug that can be reimbursed. So their goals are different, and then that can be sold and make profits for their shareholders. For academia, most of the research that happens in academic medical centers is they want to publish papers because that's how they survive, right? Whether that research is useful for the daily patient care or not is a different question. That's not their primary goal. Their primary goal is to publish papers. The regulators and the malpractice, the attorneys, they have their own goals. They want to, catch people when there are mistakes. And the insurance companies, their goal is they have to maintain their profits and be able to fund whatever happens in healthcare while still, staying afloat. So all these other players in the middle, they have different goals, although, ideally they're supposed to be helping the patient. So so the care doesn't directly go to the patient, but it goes through all these other ups and downs, and by the time it reaches the patient, it may not be the care that we have seen. So how does this system have to change to be able to take advantage of the new technology that is coming in? Artificial intelligence, that's great. You can predict disease, you can prevent disease, but one of the biggest problems is, how do you bring value? If it is a volume-based care system, which is fee-for-service, you have to have sick patients. If you don't have sick patients, you don't make money. So that's a bad thing if you're in a fee-for-service system. So you can't actually prevent disease, or at least that's not your main goal. Your main goal is to provide care and then make money. In a value-based care system, you make money when the patient is healthy. So then you can use technologies and predictions and analytics to make sure the patient stays healthy. So that's number one. So the system has to be, different. So do you guys know which system you get your care from, right? If you're getting care from this, it's good because they'll try to keep you healthy. If you're getting your care here, that means, they don't make money if you're not sick. If you look at most of the healthcare happens on this end. So if you look at, disease processes, how they begin, and then how, whether it is genetic risks or environmental risks, and then eventually you end up with a bad outcome, right? You have heart attacks, strokes, sepsis, whatever, that ends up here. In order for us to decrease the risk here, you have to go upstream. You have to go upstream so that when you attack the problem here, the cost is less. Because eventually here it is most expensive, especially at the end of life as you get older and it becomes really expensive. So in the past we used to do a lot of surgeries, tonsillectomies, hysterectomies, anything that a surgeon can lay their hands on, they would remove it, right? But not anymore. Now we're thinking about drugs. Okay, what are the drugs that you can use to not have to have surgery? So surgery may not be the best intervention for a good outcome. And now we have more medicines. And then as you go up this way, you have diets. Maybe the diet needs to be changed so that you can prevent disease. And then maybe the psychosocial factors. How good is your family support system? How good are your friends' network? That affects your health much more. So you have to think about how to improve these situations rather than just go straight to the surgery. In the past, the scientific method is, you have a question that you want answered, and so you take a sample population, and then you come up with the hypothesis, and then you try to answer that using that sample population. But now, with AI, you already have a lot of data, right? And so you don't actually need to take a small sample. You can look at the whole data in real time and real world data and then come up with the answer. All you have to do is ask the right questions and have the right technology. So what I'm trying to say is that healthcare is more and more of an information science rather than a medical science. So if you try to understand the information that you get or that you need to be able to prevent disease in the end, the more we understand that, the more lives we can save. So this is the traditional science. This is the big population, and then you take a study, and then you come up with some knowledge, and then you try to apply that to the target population. And that method takes about 18 years on average. If somebody comes up with an idea and they want to do a study, they enroll patients and do a clinical trial or whatever, and then you do more trials to make sure that it is the right thing to do, and then it goes to the societies, the bodies, the professional bodies, and they come up with guidelines, and then those guidelines get implemented. By the time it comes to the bedside, it takes about 18 years. It should take less than that. Because the data is there, you have the technology, you should be able to answer those questions right there while you're seeing the patient. And so that is one of my main jobs, and that I do is designing technology to be able to give that intelligence to the physicians and patients so that they make the right decisions. So what we do is we go back and look at data for a couple of years worth of data, and then we describe what we see, and then based on that come up with a prediction algorithm. So for example, if you come in with chest pain, what are the chances of this person getting a heart attack? And what are the steps they go through? And how can you change that path so that they don't get a heart attack? Right? That is predictive analytics. And then prescriptive analytics. So you can actually tell, based on your algorithm, based on the data you have studied, you can actually tell the physician what the next step should be. Should they be ordering another test? Should they be, referring them to the cardiologist? Should they admit the patient to the hospital, or just send them home and not worry about it? So this is the work that we have done, taking various sources of data, whether it is EHR data or physician data or patient data, and then, building an analytic engine. And then we created modules of different diseases, different processes that we see in the emergency, chest pain, belly pain, head injury, things like that. And then we provide the clinical decision support at the point of care, through the EHR browser. And we won an award for that work. Right now, this system is available in all 21 emergency departments in Northern California. And so we have several studies running, and next time when you go see somebody, hope you don't have to go to the emergency for a health problem, but if you happen to be there, you can check it out. Pablo Picasso said something great, computers can only give you answers. So the key is, how do you ask the right questions? And that's where most of our work goes into. So hopefully with AI-enabled care, the bad outcomes are coming down and the good outcomes are going to get better and better, and we're going to have much better health as the future builds up. I want to close with a story. I saw this on American Heart Association website. This is a story about Justin. He had 4 heart attacks. He had 5 bypass surgeries. And believe it or not, he had 35 stents. If you look at it from the fee-for-service angle, it's a great story, right? I mean, we did wonderful things on this guy. And he's still alive, I hope. But when you look at it from the value-based side, really? I mean, did he needed 5 bypass surgeries? Did he needed 35 stents? By the way, I don't even know how you fit 35 stents in the blood. Is there a cardiologist in the group? But I'm sure that must be some kind of a record. So how can we bend this curve, the cost and the amount of care we provide to the patient, to preventing these things from happening? By the way, we are not doing that many bypass surgeries anymore. And stents, last year, they looked at the data. There were 800,000 stent operations that were done in the United States that were clinically not indicated. Now you can imagine what kind of waste that happens in healthcare. In the past, it was high touch and no tech. Right now, we are seeing low tech. I think EHRs are not that great of a technology. David and myself were discussing that. And then low touch, because you're spending so much time on the computer. In the future, there's going to be high touch and high tech, because the tech is in the background and you won't be seeing it. Everything happens in the background, and then you'll be communicating with your physician. Thank you very much. That's my talk for you today, and I'll take some questions. Thank you.
My question, you said there were 800,000 essentially unnecessary stent surgeries. So how many were there total?
Probably about the same number, I'm guessing.
So about 50%.
Yeah.
Thank you.
By the way, I don't know the exact number, but I'm guessing.
Physician reimbursements, how does it compare to other countries? States versus other countries?
I think United States is a higher reimbursement-wise. I think the physicians are paid higher. But if you look at the total healthcare pie, the physician part is only about 10%. To support the physician, there's another 10%. But actual take-home is 10%. And if you take out the 20%, everything else is, you have pharma, devices, the hospitals, the insurance companies, everybody else, the PBMs, they take everything else, 80%. But the physician side is only that 10%. Great. Yeah. Have a
Sorry, I walked in a minute late, or 2 or 5. You said though that in the fee-for-service, you were not incentivized to take care of your patients, that you're incentivized
The opposite is value-based care. Yeah. So where you're incentivized to keep your patients healthy. So the preventive care becomes a lot more important.
And have you met many physicians who are really incentivized to keep their patients sick?
I would say about, I don't know what the division is, about 60%, 40% of the United States.
It's actually not really they're trying to keep them sick, but they get paid when sick patients come to them. And so in the United States, the vast majority of our population or our health system is fee for service.
So majority is fee for service.
Yeah, I'm a little bit, I've heard these terms before actually. I'm not just trying to be obnoxious, but I do think that as physicians, we have a responsibility to speak up and say, actually, I am motivated to keep my patients healthy, and it doesn't have to do with this at all.
Yeah.
So I just wondered why, if there was another way to spin it, because obviously I haven't solved the payment problem myself. Perhaps there's another way to frame it so that the doctor is no longer accused of ill will.
Yeah, but yeah, that's true. I mean, that's why I'm speaking here. If you want technology to help keep the disease burden low, so that's what you will be facing. That's one of the challenges is, how do you keep the reimbursement high, or how do you keep the compensation high for the physician, but still bring the disease burden down? So that's the challenge. And value-based care has shown that you can do that. Value-based care here in California is, by the way, is Kaiser. Is a prime example of value-based care. So I don't know how many of you are members of Kaiser. 1, 2, 3. Okay, not bad. So you guys have 30% less chance of having a heart attack just because you're a Kaiser member, and 50% less chance of having a stroke. That's what the data shows. There's my plug for Kaiser. All right, thank you very much.